Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today, man, we're going to be talking about a situation that has unfolded with the developers of Helldivers 2, which has been one of the biggest gaming phenomena of the year already. This is probably, in my opinion at least, going to be a Game of the Year contender for a lot of people, and it's been super fun these last few weeks having a game like this to finally play again. Obviously, I've been using it for gameplay. Just so many people are enjoying this game right now, and of course, well, it's been out for a few weeks now, so the developers, they recently pushed out a balance patch for the game that makes some slight changes to the effects of some of the things in the game to try and, balance out the game a little bit more, end metas and whatnot, because, I mean, we're like a month into this game. We're like a month in already, and there's already people who are just like running the same class setups and whatnot as they always run, and people are kind of like already finding out what works and doesn't work, and that in and of itself isn't the problem. Obviously, the problem arises when like one or two things become super overpowered or whatever in comparison to all the other options in the game, and then it ends up killing the diversity of players and what they use, right? So the developers, they did pretty much what any developer would probably do. They made a little bit of a change to the game. I guess they really buffed up the flamethrower, made that pretty good. They nerfed the railgun. I guess they balanced out some of the orbital strikes a little bit more. And, well, these changes, I mean, I feel like most people didn't mind them, you know what I mean? I feel like most people probably really didn't care all that much because ultimately this isn't a game that's meant to be taken like competitively or seriously, but there is a specific subcategory of Helldivers fans who are up in fucking arms, and it's gotten to the point where I guess they've had a little bit of a showdown with the developers, and it got to the point where the CEO of the company came out and issued an apology on behalf of a couple of the developers because I guess the developers gave the wrong answers to the community, and it ended up pissing off a bunch of people. And honestly, man, these are one of these situations, I'll talk about it of course more after we look at the article, but these are one of those situations that just ruins games. I hate to say it, but I feel like the way the community is acting over this entire situation is just so overblown. It really feels like people are just trying to make a fucking mountain out of a molehill, right? Like they're trying to drag up this non-issue and they're trying to present it like it's some sort of massive problem going on when it really isn't that deep, in my personal opinion. I don't think it's that deep, but the first Helldivers 2 balance patch went live recently, and it hasn't gone over well with some players. Those embers of discontent were fanned by a few members of the Helldivers team. A moderator on the game's Discord server, for instance, said, quote, "Watching you all cry amuses me so much," while another said on Reddit that complaints about weapon nerfs were perhaps in reality a question of, quote, "skill issue." In response to complaints to these comments, including one developer's self-confessed trolling, Arrowhead Games CEO Johan Pilestedt, the de facto public face of the studio, has taken to Reddit to tell the community that this, quote, "is not a message that the studio stands behind and that steps are being taken to ensure it doesn't happen again. To my reading, it comes off as developers trying to have a little fun with the community, just a bit of good-natured ribbing and trash talking." But a vocal corner of the Helldivers 2 community, Reddit, didn't take it that way, and it led to a blow-up on the Helldivers subreddit as players accused Arrowhead of, for instance, quote, "gaslighting and demeaning the player base," right? So, alright, just to kind of simplify everything here, Helldivers 2 developers push out a patch, it nerfs some of the things, buffs some of the things, basically, makes certain options more viable and other options that are overused a little bit less viable, right? Probably what any studio would want to do, right? I mean, it's only been a few weeks after the game came out. They're, I guess, still trying to figure out what's really going on with it. They're trying to just make it as best as they can right now. And a bunch of Helldivers players didn't like the fact that they are basically trying to take out the meta of the game early, right? And I guess the developers at Arrowhead over Discord and Reddit had just been kind of fucking poking a little bit at the community. And I already know some people were like, "Oh, but Optimus, if this was Activision or whatever doing this, you would be shitting on them for it." And no, truthfully, I really wouldn't. Like, I have no problem with developers having good-hearted, good-natured fun with their community. And I'm sorry, seeing a developer tell a bunch of fucking Discord users that you're crying about the game too much and it's amusing to them, I mean, realistically, like, am I supposed to be up in fucking arms? Really? Like, am I supposed to think that this is the worst thing that ever happened? Or like, am I supposed to stand in solidarity with Reddit because the fucking developers told them that them crying about not being able to run a railgun every match and it be the most viable thing is a skill issue? I mean, this is being equated to gaslighting and demeaning the player base. It's like so fucking embarrassing for Redditors and for gamers, man. It's so pathetic because truth is, right, you hear all the time, like, and I've been part of this too, you hear people all the time talk about, oh bro, I wish we could just get developers that actually communicate with their community, people who actually talk about their games with the community and explain the update process and stuff, right? And then they finally get exactly what they asked for, but it wasn't just how they wanted it, you know? The developers, instead of cowering to them and be, well, maybe you guys are right, maybe the railgun meta is what we should allow, and maybe only one or two classes of shit should be viable. I mean, it is our game, and we are the ones who get to make the decisions for it and whatnot, but I mean, maybe you guys are right. I guess because the developers didn't do that, and they kinda, you know, joked back or trolled back a little bit, now I'm supposed to believe that they're gaslighting and demeaning their player base. Honestly, man, this is why I don't like Reddit, this is why I don't go on it, this is why I don't interact with these communities. Because they take non-issues like this, and they put a fucking magnifying glass on it, and then they make it out to be some massive fucking problem, right? Like, you hear these guys all the time, like I said, oh, we need developers who actually communicate with their fans. What 90% of people who say that actually mean is, I should be allowed to unfilteredly criticize and shit on the developers, and they should not be allowed to defend themselves or speak back at me in any way. Because that's really what most of these guys actually want when they say that. Because, I mean, like I said, you get it right here. You get a good developer, a good studio that cares about their game. They've made a good product. I think that most, if not all, really, of the decisions that they've made post-launch have been pretty beneficial to the game in the long run. And then the community finally gets that, and then they want to freak the fuck out about it because they didn't get catered to. Let's just call it for what it is. And then, unfortunately, the CEO has to step in here, and he has to reprimand his employees, and apparently now they're being trained in studio to not behave this way. So what's really happened here, when you look at it, is there was a developer studio that was more than willing to interact with their community, and they did it their own way. Sure, they didn't do some fucking corpo PR response to everything. Well, hey there, Jonathan. We are really disappointed that you're not enjoying our update. You know that shit, right? That chat GPT AI generated ass corporate response that you'd usually get from developers, right? You're not getting that with these guys because they actually care about their game. They're passionate about it. They're passionate about their community. And then when they show that passion, or they have the same flair that the fans of this game have for the game, then people want to lose their fucking marbles about it. So then don't be surprised when studios like this, instead of openly communicating constantly with the community, decide to just shut the fuck up and build a communication wall between you and the developers. And honestly, when it comes down to it, I agree with the developers, because like these Redditors and these fucking crybabies in the Discord, oh, dude, well, but the changes to the game have made the harder levels unplayable. I mean, what am I supposed to do to the tanks and whatnot if I don't have my railgun? And like, I don't know, this is weird to me because like I've never ran this meta class or whatever that's forming even one time. Like, you can look back at all my fucking gameplay. I don't run around with a railgun and shit, you know? I'm running around with a machine gun mopping down bugs, or I have like the fucking cannon and I'm shooting down the reinforcement ships for bots and shit. And using like my I'm still using the default rifle that is like the main loadout when you first play the game, bro. I don't know, like Helldivers 2 is not a game for me. It's not like Call of Duty, right? Like, I would get people complaining about, oh, you're tearing up the metas and you're unbalancing our things, if like this was a competitive video game, but it's not. This is a co-op for fun shooter that you play with your friends, and it's lighthearted fun about shooting bugs and bots and doing it for fucking democracy, bro. Like, this is not Call of Duty. This is not Overwatch. This is not Rainbow. Those are communities where, like, you know, competitive viability exists, and you have to manage that as well as managing like the normal player base. But in Helldivers 2, that's not the case. We're all playing the same game. We're all playing it mostly for the same reasons. Apparently, some fucking Redditors are playing this to run a meta class. And like, I don't know, shit like that is what ruins video games like this. this. And I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see these fucking vocal minorities of people who are just crybabies and just fucking whine about anything they can start tearing down the developers of this game because they have some personality and they care about their own product. And in reality, what it really comes down to here too is because like this article doesn't really quote them well enough. The whole point on Reddit from one of the developers that got downvoted to oblivion was that the game is only like 4 weeks old and nobody really knows what the game is supposed to be yet, right? Like everyone is still figuring it out. The fans are still figuring out what their favorite weapons and ordinances and whatnot all are. The developers are still figuring out which ones are too overpowered, underpowered, not valuable enough, too valuable, whatever. The game has been out for like a fucking month, okay? And yet people are acting once again like this is any other studio in the world. And it's just, I don't know, man. Some of the replies from developers did go a little far. Quote, "I'm feeding the rage a little for my own entertainment here, just so you know," one wrote, seemingly acknowledging and dismissing the upset amongst the community. He went on to say the balance patch, quote, "made two of the most brainless playstyles less viable," which to no surprise here also didn't go over screamingly well. The developer in question later apologized, saying he, quote, "went a little far with the trolling," and that he wouldn't be engaging with the community any further. Quote, "I figured I'd have a little fun with the players, but I realized being a dev, I'm in an unfair position," he wrote. "Maybe this isn't going to mend anything with you, but I at least feel I should own up to it and apologize. I'm sorry." But that didn't calm the waters. Players on Reddit roundly rejected the apology and continued to complain that Arrowhead simply wasn't taking them seriously. Good, they shouldn't be. Finally, Pilestedt, a regular presence on social media himself, stepped in. Quote, "Since I'm a heavy subscriber of a communicative studio, it means I encourage developers to engage with the community," Pilestedt wrote. "However, this also exposes us to risks of miscommunication or heated arguments, and it's something we actively discuss internally at the studio to improve on." Quote, "While I understand it reflects on the studio as a whole, it's not our intention that this should be the behavior from us. We want to ensure you all have the best time possible in the game and in this community." In separate follow-up posts, Pilestedt described some of the developers' statements on Reddit and Discord as, quote, "horrible and inexcusable behavior," and said that Arrowhead has taken action internally to educate our developers on how to represent the organization. See, here's what I think is bullshit about this statement right now. If I came out today and I made a video and I'm like, oh, this shit it's a brainless play style. This is a brain dead play style. I would be largely applauded by people, you know, people would just clap. They'd be like, oh, Optimus doesn't think that this is good, you know? But God forbid somebody on that development studio who actually makes the fucking video game has that same opinion and shares it publicly, right? I mean, we're getting to the point where people are basically arguing, yeah, I don't want my game developers to have opinions. I don't want them to be able to vocalize their opinions on the game and the play styles for it. I want my game developers to just shut the fuck up and code. And I think that's a really loser mentality, especially to do it in a game and in a community where people are finally happy to have developers that do communicate like this, right? That do talk to their fans. Now, I get it, right? Like you read it out of context or whatever and you see, oh, this trolling is making me happy, right? And you think, oh, the developer's a dick, but it's very, very clear that it's just a joke, you know? Like these developers are not being fucking serious about being, oh, I'm happy you guys are mad. Like, and even if they are, who gives a fuck, dude? Like who really cares, bro? You're telling me these guys on Reddit are really sitting around mad about this? Like, dude, shut the fuck up. And I'm sorry, I don't think that these comments were, quote, horrible. I don't think that they were, quote, inexcusable behavior at all. I just don't. Maybe slightly out of taste, sure. Could it upset people that it's targeted at? Yeah. But ultimately, these are people acting like big pussies and crybabies over some meta changes to a for-fun co-op shooter. They kinda deserve to get shit on a little bit. If you can only play one playstyle in Helldivers 2 and that's the only way you can survive to extract, you kinda don't deserve to play the game, I feel like. I mean, it is a skill issue, I'm sorry to tell you, but if you need to run the most broken things constantly in the game in order to win at it, then that doesn't make you good. That doesn't make you a valuable player. I'm sorry. Like I said, I've never run the quote-unquote meta class in this game one time, and I still have dozens of hours of enjoyment out of it, you know what I mean? Like these people are acting as if they don't have a railgun, they can't have any fun with the game. And these kinds of people are the problems with video games nowadays in and of itself. I mean, you have these really loud vocal minorities on social media who they fucking find whatever they can to cry about in any video game, and then when they receive even the most minor amount of pushback back, they scream that they're being gaslighted and all this other shit. Like, dude, no wonder people don't take these Redditors and shit seriously. No wonder nobody takes Discord people seriously when this is how their communities always fucking act, bro. And then the developers apologized and Reddit didn't accept it. And then they continued to complain, oh, we're not being taken seriously. The developers bent over way further backwards for you than they should have ever. And that still wasn't good enough for these fucking crybabies. So what that shows me, and what that should show you as a gamer, is that no matter what you do for people like this who are perpetually online, hovering in a fucking subreddit and whatnot, making their Discord ID their fucking personality, right? Is that no matter what you do as a game developer or anything, really, you can't make these people happy. You can't make these people satisfied. They will always find something to be upset about, and even the best of the best in gaming will have to deal with it. So when you look at all the other studios and you're like, man, why aren't they communicative? Why don't they talk with their community? It's because too many gamers think that communicating with studios means only one side gets to have opinions. Only one side is allowed to voice their take. Only one side is allowed to contribute to the conversation. And it's never the people who actually work on the game and make the entertainment that we all love. It's always the fucking people on Reddit with no gaming experience, never developed a video game before whatsoever, who, you know, they're the ones who matter. I don't know. It's fucking ridiculous, dude. But I just wanted to make a video and just stand up for the developers here, because these are actually developers that I feel like they've stood up for their community, man. If this was just any other shitty developer that this was happening to, I would feel a little bit differently. But I mean, these have been good developers who have been very communicative, and they've provided a very good product out of the box. And honestly, I really don't think that they deserve to be treated this way. So anyway, with that being said, man, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubTheOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. Thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers. Your support helps the channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, well, talking about the Helldivers 2 controversy and signing out.